So the idea for this study group is to take a Rails application that doesn't have any like JavaScript interactions on it and just add a few different JavaScript interactions. And so kind of essentially what you'd be doing in the like JavaScript portfolio project. So essentially that same idea. There was a study group, I think last week, that some people had some questions about it. So that was kind of the inspiration for this. It seems like something that people were interested in. So what I did was I put together a quick Rails application. It's up on GitHub right now. At some point, I'll update the README to actually like talk about how you would set it up. Although it should be pretty standard, like clone repository. I'll show you how you can get the data in a second. You just clone repository, bundle install, break DB migrate, that sort of thing. So if you guys want to try this out and play around with this Rails app, you're more than welcome to. So I don't know, like the people that are on, was there anything that you were looking to get out of this study group? Anything in particular you were interested in? Anybody? Okay. I guess I'll get started with it. I'll just run through the application real quick to show you guys what's there, and then I'll start working on adding the JavaScript stuff. Please stop me if you have any questions. There's only a couple of people on, so like whatever questions you guys have, or if you want to see me implement a certain feature, I'm more than happy to do that. So just let me know as I go along. Yeah, so let's get started. Okay, so the application, I was trying to kind of think kind of loosely about like what's required for the JavaScript portfolio project. So I was trying to like think of the elements that you like would need to implement and trying to make sure that the Rails application had some of those like features that are kind of good for adding adding JavaScript to. So that's kind of the idea behind the application. It's pretty basic. So let me actually show you guys what I did. So I actually went to the National Park Service has an API. So I use their API to download a list of, I think it's like 519 different like parks and national historic sites. I'm guessing it's like whatever the National Park Service manages. So it's actually a lot more than I was expecting. So I downloaded all that data into the application. There's a table that holds the parks. Some parks can be in multiple states. So there's also a states table, and there's a join table in between so that there's no duplicates in the states table. So there's a has many through relationship there. And then there's also a reviews table so that people can leave reviews. I didn't put any like user authentication or any of that kind of stuff in here. So for instance, we could go to Acadia. It gives you some information about the park, links to like the website and stuff, and then you can create a review down here. And so then the review gets added to that list for the park. So for the API, let me just talk about that real quick. So there's a file under app API NPS. And so that's just what grabs all of the data from the National Park Service. It's pretty straightforward. I'm using HTTP party to actually do the request. So it just allows you to set a few different options. If you wanted to try this on your own, you just need to go to the National Park Service API website, and there's you like give them your email address and they send an API key. So it's pretty easy to get an API key. So there's a few different options that I've got set here. And then you can just, so then with this class, you can just do like nps.new.parks, and then that will send the request and give back all the parks. So I'll actually show that to you guys really quick. So that can take a minute or so sometimes to run. So this will give you back like a whole list of parks. So then to add the data into the database, there's a rake task that does that. So that's under tasks. It's this nps api.rake. And so this runs the class to pull out the API, pull the data from the API, goes through each of the parks. It'll, I actually set it up so that if you already have the park data in a database and you run this again, it doesn't destroy what's in there already, but it will like overwrite the values. But it doesn't update the IDs, or at least it shouldn't update the IDs. So if you ever ran it twice, it really shouldn't mess anything up too much. But essentially what this does is just goes through each of the attributes that come back. For states, they have to be handled differently because there's more than one state for some of these parks. And then it just goes through and sets all of the data, saves it at the end, and we'll also, like, it'll print out some dots as you go along. So it's kind of nice to see what's happening. So I just did that just so that we had some data to work with, since for like these front-end interactions, I feel like it's nicer to have a nice data set just to make it a little more interesting. Does anybody have questions about that part so far? Okay. So just a couple other things real quick. If I run rake routes, it'll give me a list. It's pretty short. The route just goes to parks index, and I'll show you these controllers real quick here in a second. There's posts for parks reviews. So when you click the submit button on the review form that's on each park's page, this is the endpoint that it hits. There's a separate form for editing the park, or the editing reviews. Then there's like a put in patch to send in that edit. And then there's also like a parks index page and a park show page. So there's not too many different things happening here. So let me just show you guys the controllers real quick. So we've got the parks controller. There's a few things that are happening here. So I'm using will paginate to do the pages, because otherwise it's all like 519 different things. So that's quite a bit. I'm making sure to include states. So that's something that you can do to like optimize your database pools, particularly like pulling that much information, just ordering it by name. There's also this by state function. And so that will just limit the parks to parks that are in a certain state. So it's just using like active record scopes essentially. And then I'm just pulling out like all of the parks that fit this criteria. And there's also some other stuff in here, like a list of states that's used for the drop down, as well as an instance variable just to say like which state is selected so the drop down works properly. The show action is pretty straightforward. This is just going to show a park and any of the reviews that go with it. Creating a new review to make sure that the form works. And then here, this is pretty much the standard stuff as well. So just like creating a new review from a park, so you have to find the park first, then create the review. Edit have to find the park and the review. Update's pretty much the same, so there's nothing too fancy happening there. And so like some of the things you can do here, there's this search, so you can search by states. If I just want California, you just select California, Colorado. One of the nice things is the will paginate actually works pretty well with the search criteria. So that was kind of nice that nothing like extra really had to happen there. So as long as you're passing in, you can see up here we're passing in a page and then the state. So as long as they get passed in each time, it's good to go. So any questions about the app, how it's structured? No questions at all? Okay. So now I'll talk about the JavaScript side of things. So I already have a branch for JavaScript. I just need to add back in all my stuff from master that's been updated. So one of the questions that came up last week when I was talking to some other students was they were having trouble getting things to happen when their page loads. And so one of the problems is if you're using a Rails app, they come built in with something called turbo links. And so turbo links can definitely cause you some JavaScript headaches if you're not aware what it's doing and that it's there. So the thing to know about turbo links is it will limit page refreshes. So like what happens is if you're using turbo links and you click on a link on your application, it will not re-render the entire page, but instead Rails can figure out like just the body is changing and it will just re-render the body instead of everything in the head tags, all that extra stuff that comes along. So it makes the page changes a little snappier, but it also kind of messes with the JavaScript because you don't get the like, if you look back here, you don't get the standard like document.ready. Doesn't always work the way you would think that it would. And so actually with Rails 5, it turns out that they've added this turbo links load event that you can hook into. So this would do what you would expect it to if you were using document.ready. So I can actually show you those differences. So if I go back, oh. Hold on a second. Okay. So if I'm back here at the parks index page, and I click refresh, so you can see I've got two different jQuery functions defined here. One is on turbo links load, and that one says yo, and then the other one is on document.ready, and it says yo again. So if I hit refresh, I get yo again first, followed immediately by yo. So both of those are running. So what's tricky though is like that makes sense. Like that's what you would expect to have happen. But if I like click on Acadia, so you can see that yo is running. So that's the one under turbo links load. But yo again will not run. So that's the turbo links gem working, in that it doesn't actually like reload the whole document. So the document.ready event never actually fires. So that's something you really have to be careful about. Having this turbo links load event is actually pretty cool. I know when I did my Rails project, I actually like stripped out turbo links because it was causing me too many problems. But that actually makes it pretty nice to work with. Any questions about that? If, like honestly, like if that's the only takeaway that you guys get from this, that you have to watch out for turbo links because it doesn't trigger events as you normally would see, then you guys will be like, I'll be happy about that, just because it is really important and something that can really be tricky.
So is it entirely necessary to use the turbo links?
No, no, you don't need to use it. And I think the only thing you have to do to get rid of it is just get rid of the gem.
Right.
Like in theory, it should make the page loads a lot faster. I think the idea is to be kind of like trying to get the best of both worlds between like a single page application where you're writing like something in React that takes a lot of JavaScript on the front end versus having just like complete page refreshes. So it's supposed to be kind of the best of both worlds in that, you know, since it's just re-rendering part of the page, it's supposed to be faster. So that's kind of the idea behind it. It's not something that a lot of people like, so a lot of people just take it out right away. And like what it does to the JavaScript is one of the reasons why people don't like it.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so let's actually like implement some stuff with JavaScript. I have a couple of ideas of things that I can implement, but if you guys see anything that you'd like to see, like requirements from the Rails JavaScript project that you would like to see me work on, I'm more than happy to start with something like that. Otherwise, like I have a few different ideas that I can work on, but it's really up to you guys, whatever you want to see, and whatever looks interesting to you. And so I will say too that I'm planning for this to be a couple of parts. So if there's a few things that I don't get to, well, I'm not thinking I'm really going to be able to get through that much today, but I will kind of do this for another week or two to get through some other pieces of this. So is there anything that you guys would like to see? I can pull up the requirements real quick, actually. So I know there's things like you need to render an index page, render a show page, reveal a has many relationship. You need to use it for a form. So things that I can work on are, so I have this search so that you can select different states. So I could do that dynamically with JavaScript instead of waiting for the page reload. I could also have a like show more button for each of the parts. So instead of like clicking to view the part, you could just see a little bit more about it, or even clicking to see the reviews would be an option. On the on the parks page, I can do the handling the form and sending the form in and getting it back. Any preferences? Okay. So let's start with the, let's actually just start with this search and trying to get that to work. So, so there's a couple things that are going to need to happen here. The first is I need to hook into when I'm changing this element. So I'm going to open up that code. Okay. So on our index page, we have this select tag, and that's the thing I'm going to want to hook into. So I think that I can provide some kind of an option there. So actually, let me take a look at what we have. So that's kind of like the first step is figuring out, okay, like what do I have to hook into? Okay, so it actually has an ID of state. I think I want to change that to something else. And I should be able to send in some options here. So let's see if that'll work. No, I do not like that. Oh. So let's check out that documentation real quick. Yeah, that definitely did not work the way that I thought it would. So I guess I can just give it an ID. There we go. Okay, great. So what I want to do here, and I should have a, let me actually copy this. So I should have a parks.js file. So that's a good place to put this. Although right now it's called parks.copy. So let me actually remove that. Okay, so one of the things that you want to do is it's good to namespace your JavaScript. So I'm going to do that really quick. So this was on TurboLinks. Pass in a function. Zoom is getting in the way, so I can't see what I'm typing. So what I'm going to need to do is like grab a hold of that that ID, and actually for this I don't need the on turbo link. So really all I'm going to need here is the so I called that state select. And so that should be I think one click will do the trick for this. So let's actually just add an alert. So let's see what happens here as I change this. Yeah, so that's not it. All right, so one of my favorite resources is this jQuery cheat sheet. And so let's figure out what we're going to need here. By the way, there's only like 2 other people on this call, so if you guys have questions, please speak up. Now's your time to get questions about this stuff in.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but I feel like I'm talking to myself.
No, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm
so
here. We care.
yeah. Yeah, so let's figure out what event I want. Oh, and yeah, by the way, so if you just Google search jQuery cheat sheet, this one is excellent. I really like this one because it's all color coded, it's broken out by category. It makes it so much easier to find all this jQuery stuff. So I feel like there's supposed to be a list of events in here somewhere.
Your like selected events.
What's this? Oh, selected events. It actually might be like on Blur. Let me actually try that one. So let's see here. And sometimes this can be half the battle. So like something that I found useful was like, put an alert in there and, oh, you know what? Actually, I don't know that this is, so it should be require entry. So actually put an alert here. Sometimes just making sure that your code is running can be half the battle. Okay, so that is working. And I did call that state select. So that should be getting into what I need to. Surprised that click doesn't work. Actually, I tried some of these other ones. So there are like specific events that you can use. So form event. Oh, let's do change. That sounds like a promising one. That is really weird. Something else. This is saying change.
Did you try select?
I don't know that that's it. Is that?
Yeah, that's on your cheat sheet. I'm just looking at your cheat sheet. It's
Oh, it's on there.
under change. Yeah, select.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. No, that's not working either. And so like this kind of stuff, I felt like was like half the battle with with this was just like getting this stuff to actually like fire when you're expecting it to. Let me actually do this. Let's just take one other thing out of the mix. And so I'm almost wondering if this isn't a turbo links issue. So let me grab this. So I do have it called state select. And the hashtag is for ID. I'm not like completely losing my mind there. Let me check some other things here. I don't think I have any other on selects and any other example code that I have. Let me try this one here. So one of the things I had to do when I did my Rails project was this mess here. So let me see if that helps with the situation. So I did window.
So I just found something on Stack Overflow that might help. I put it in the chat.
Sure.
It looks like select and then change, as opposed to document and then change to targeting select with jQuery. It looks like.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. This is beyond me. But.
So the select should be, let me see if I can grab the element instead of, actually a good point. Can I actually get the select? So they did select on change. So it's funny because it's triggering on the page load, which is extra weird. But it doesn't trigger anywhere else. So let me actually try something else here. Maybe I'm still missing something here. Okay, so let's try something else. I don't know why that's not working. I'll have to maybe do that one next time. I don't know what the problem is, so I apologize. Okay, so let's figure out something else we can do here. Sorry about that. One of the unfortunate side effects of trying to live code things.
Brave man, Scott.
I feel like this week, like every single study group has had some big, massive failure in the middle of it. So it's just how it works sometimes, I guess. Okay, so let's see if we can do that little like, try adding a link here to each of these so you can, I guess actually what we could do is when you click View Park, try to take over that click and it'll just provide a description of the park and then a link to actually take you to the park. So, okay, so let's see if this is going to work now. So I've got this class. You know what? Let me actually do this real quick too. Use some of the other tools available. So you can run jQuery just right in here, and I'm actually almost tempted just to try that. So let's see. So it was getting a state select back from that. Yeah, still don't get that. Okay, so let's skip that again. So we've got, I called these parks list. Let's see what we get back here. That's actually on the page. So let's inspect all these. Yeah, so we do have that on the page. There we go. So now we're getting a list of all those back. So let's think about what we need to do here. So I need to have some way to click the link. that we have in here. And actually, let's actually do it. Let's just start with this way. So let's grab those. Let's try an on. Oops. Oh, no. I didn't restart the Rails server when I got rid of TurboLens, which, let's see if that improves the situation any. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on right now. I'm so confused. I guess that's part of programming. Let me just check a couple of other things to see if there's something I'm really missing right now. Just checking some other JavaScript code that I have to see what else I could be missing. Interesting. Let's see if this helps the problem. Yeah, I am at such a loss right now. I really apologize. I don't understand at all what's going on right now. So I'm assuming that the JavaScript seems to be showing up, and I don't understand. Even following patterns that I've used with other stuff that I've wrote. Okay, so that's a better result. Okay, cool. So let's try this with something else. So yeah, so I've got these here, and what I call them now. There we go. Finally, some kind of result. So apparently, because I was not giving it a callback function, it was triggering immediately, maybe. I don't know. JavaScript can be confounding sometimes. So I'm actually curious now. Let's see if all this extra stuff has anything to do with it. So it does. So I think this is the equivalent of the document on ready, and so I think that's what's actually like getting the JavaScript like, or jQuery to like trigger the load of this stuff. So I don't know. I guess if you had turbo links, you could do the same thing, but pass back in the function. So let me actually try that really quick. So we'll do this document. So I'm just going to put the application back with turbo links in here. Yes, that's back, so that's good. And then add it back to the gem file quick. Just want to see if that's actually going to help or not. installed. Okay, so now that's working. So yeah, so making sure that everything is initialized properly, and I'll have to do a little more research on why exactly that is what needs to happen. So now I'm actually curious. So if I do the what do I call this? State select. So we said on change was a good candidate. There we go.
Nice.
Well, I'm glad I figured it out, although that was infuriating for a while. Yeah, so in my other project, the one that I keep going back to here, I know that I had this set up. I don't remember why exactly I came to this conclusion, but this must have been so. Like if you look up in jQuery, here's the cheat sheet. So like if you look up the oh, where is it? Let's see it. The like $ parentheses method or function in jQuery. So like that is actually like alias for a bunch of different things that you might need. So you can actually do like jQuery with parentheses, like that's the same thing. And so it's a selector, but then you can also use it for like it triggers on document ready. So if I had done this as like on ready, then it would work, but doing the turbolinks load. Anyway, so all right, so I'm glad we got that working.
So, can I ask a question about that though?
Yeah, sure.
So, okay, so at the beginning, you were trying to call the function on the state select. You didn't have the document line in there, right? It was you were just trying to apply the function directly to state select.
Yeah. Yep.
Working. So we needed to frame it within the document.
Yes, that seems to be. I know I've read about why you need to do that. I guess I didn't quite understand that. So, you know, sometimes these study groups are as much a learning experience for me as, you know, whoever's calling in. But, you know, like I was saying, like, and I remember struggling with this for a while when I was working on my project, is like getting that whole piece to work properly can be, as we've seen, really tricky. So now I at least know that like things are working better than they were.
Yeah. So somehow, yeah, it's about interacting with the DOM. I think it's all about
yeah, and I know it talks about it in here. But I would have to do a little research to track that down. I forget where they. Yeah, so like, see, this can do so many different things, like register document ready handler. You know, part of the problem could have been if like the JavaScript. So I think now I think it's coming back a little bit. So I think part of the reason why you have to do this is because you want to make sure that your whole page is loaded. So I'm wondering if part of what was happening is like for the select that it wasn't triggering because like it was seeing that one was selected, but the page like hadn't loaded, and then it, I don't know, like didn't like register properly because it was like trying to run instantly.
Right.
So I think that that could have been part of the problem. But you know, this seems to be working much better now. So I think that that's at least a good direction. So I'm about out of time now. So my idea is to continue this and actually like implement some of the JavaScript features, similar to things like you'd have in one of the portfolio projects. So, I mean, is this something that you guys would find interesting? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I think what I'd like to do is continue with this and make it a couple of weeks long. Hopefully next week I can actually like get through implementing something and actually like demonstrating how that works. But yeah, this is definitely something that can be like super frustrating, and I remember struggling with it quite a bit. I'll have to remember too why I use the window.init. As well as wrapping it in all this other stuff. So I'll have to track that down, why I did that. But any questions at this point?
Yeah, I had one question.
Yep.
And watching you work with that. Where is the link on the full name of the park?
You mean why like the click even works like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the click will work anywhere you register the click. So it's actually like looking at like whatever would be like highlighted here. So I'm pretty sure I could like click over here and it would still trigger. Let's see.
Okay, because that's the parks list element.
Yeah, because that's like how big that element is. So like if you look here, so it'll click on any of that element.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa. It doesn't even need to be a link that you hijack. You just hijack.
Yeah, you can hijack all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Yep. And like getting to know what some of these events are is can be really helpful. Like, let me see. Oh, so like formal events, like so like the blur is when you like click off of something. So if you have like if you're in a form field and then you like click away or like move away, that's blur. Change would be like as you're typing, like if you're typing something into a form field, that'll be change. Focus would be like clicking into it so you can like start typing something in. I don't really know what focus in or out are. I feel like with when you get to the React stuff, things like blur, change, what other ones do I use? Focus might be another one as well. Like I feel like they get used quite a bit for different React type things. But yeah, like I think there's a whole like big list of these. Like I think in the curriculum they talk about like key down, key up, all those kinds of things. So there's a whole list of these events, and you can trigger them on all different kinds of things as well. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to end there. Thanks for coming. I hope you come back next week, and hopefully it'll go a little bit better.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Well, have a good evening.